and welcome back to What in the World, the Hungry for Life podcast channel. It's been a while since we've been on here, but we are back and we have a special guest today. Beni Cobaschi is here to talk to us today. So thank you for coming all the way from Langley to sit and chat about generosity as a lifestyle. Beni just got back from a trip with HFL, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here, and hi to everyone that's listening. We just got back Monday at 1 a.m. From Haiti.
Yeah.
With a few of the guys from HFL.
Yeah.
And it was a great trip. I'll tell you more as we go along.
We'll get to that. Yeah,
yeah.
We will get to that. Yeah. So Beni went on a trip with a few of our staff. If you were following us on social media, you would have seen it. Just to do some project assessments and check out what's happening. It's been a while since we've been able to do these trips, so it's cool that you got to go.
Yeah.
I know you have a few stories from there. But yeah, Beni he sits on our board, right?
Yes.
For how many years have you been on the Hunger for Life?
I've been on the board for 2 years.
2 years now.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have a wife and 2 kids. How old are your kids?
So Alice is almost 10 and Caleb is 8, and we live in Langley. My wife Diana, she loves gardening, she loves animals. I never thought I would be on a farm, but here I am. I was more the kind of person, we can have an acreage, but I just want everything manicured, grass, a little bit of grass to cut, not too much work to do, but we have 20 acres. We also have a Christmas tree farm.
Oh, so, no way.
Yeah, I never thought that I would sell Christmas trees in December, but here we go. And I think it's a good experience for the kids with the animals to be responsible, to wake up in the morning so they have a chore to do. And then the Christmas trees that they can just understand the hard work, and then the payoff in the winter when you actually sell the crops or the produce, and then you make a bit of money. So we're trying to help them to get in this and understand how it works.
Yeah, it's hard for kids to understand that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my kids to put their dishes away. Like it's, let alone, that's cool. A Christmas tree. Okay. Yeah. Well, whoever's listening in Langley.
Yeah.
Christmas time. Where do they go for their Christmas tree?
Tannenbaum Tree Farm.
Tannenbaum.
Yeah.
Like the German.
Yes, it was actually an old German fellow that owned the property.
Okay.
And we bought it from him. So we said, just to give something back to the old fellow, we called it. We called it in German.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to a German church growing up, and we sang, "Oh, Tannenbaum." Yeah. So I know the word. This is not a musical, though. So moving on. We wanted to talk a little bit. Beni grew up in Romania until you were 15, and a little bit. Can you give a bit of context to what it was like for you growing up in Romania? I know. You were just mentioning the fall of communism happened when you were 5. So it's not like you were living under a communist regime, but it definitely probably played into effect how you were raised. And do you want to shed some light on that?
Yeah. So the communist regime fell in 89 December, and it was televised how they kind of killed the communist leader, Ceausescu at the time. And the country kind of turned around a bit. So there's still a lot of corruption in there, but you're still able to do what you want. You're able to travel now. Romania is part of EU and NATO, and things are getting better. But the influences from the communist regime still impacted the people. Not so much me, but my parents' generation. And I heard a lot of stories. I heard stories when if you're a Christian, they could just pick you up one day from the street if you talked against the regime, and you could be in prison, who knows for how long, and you couldn't see your family. And churches would be, they would have their leaders in the church, and they would try to kind of infiltrate with the communist regime and kind of get feedback from them, so they would be undercover kind of in the church. So it was a hard time, but I didn't get to live under that communist regime too much. Though Romania is as a country and the people are very friendly. So that's one of the things that I missed when actually we came to Canada, is the connection with the family, the connection with everybody there. But even that has changed. When I went back with my wife a few years later. They asked me, what do you want us to do as a family? My mom has 8 siblings. One of them died, but there's still 7 of them now. And I said, I want to go back. It's called like to go hang out on the grass, to go for a camping. And they said, oh, okay, if that's your desire, we'll do that for you. And I asked them, I said, so when is the last time you did this? And they said, we haven't done it in a very long time. And I came to realize that as they matured in their wealth and they had more, they stopped doing the communal things. You know, that thing that I really liked, it's kind of dying down also. It's becoming more of a North American or a Western society, because back in the day, if you wanted to go to someone's house, you just went. You didn't have to call. You didn't have to do anything. You just showed up, and you know, they welcome yourself in and hang out and talk. Or if you came down to borrow a tool or to do something, it was just all open for you. But that's kind of going away, and I'm a bit sad about it.
And how does the you were saying, like, the more wealth that they acquired, the less communal they became? How do you think the two correlate to each other?
Well, I think the more you acquire, the more you want to keep acquiring, and you know, it keeps you engaged, it keeps you busy. Working for yourself, you don't have time for the family, right? That's why we struggle with here in North America, how you keep a balance between work and family. And now that the borders open and they can go outside in the West, they do that, but then the family suffers. So right. It's a trade that you need to balance.
Interesting. So coming to Canada, like, you kind of touched on the differences, but what stands out to you? You're 15 years old, you're coming from Romania. What's like the biggest shock coming into Canada?
So the biggest shock was realizing, like, my parents, the whole immigration process took about 3 years, and I was really excited. So a friend of my dad's came by unannounced from Holland to Romania, just stayed for the weekend, and started talking that he's going to go to Canada. And my dad got excited. He always wanted to go to a UK or somewhere where you speak English. We traveled to Germany because he has siblings there, but we never traveled to UK, Australia, America, Canada. So he's like, oh, I have the opportunity to immigrate. Let's give it a try. Mm-hmm. So I was excited. The whole process took 3 years, from 12 years old to 15. But then when I got actually to come here, I realized that, hey, everything that was there stays behind, and I need to start a new life. Like, all my friends, everything is, I have to leave behind. So that was a big shock for a teenager, right, at that age.
Yeah, especially at 15.
Yeah.
It's kind of when you're sort of becoming yourself, and
yeah, and I was very involved in the church. Like, church was part of life. Like, you would go to church for orchestra. I played trumpet and mandolin, so twice a week. Then we used to go with young adults from the church to visit the old folks from the church that couldn't come on Sunday. So we'd visit them and just hang out with them, bring them some food, and pray and sing. And then we also had Bible studies with the church and with the young adults. So almost every evening I would be in church. So it's just like part of life. But then you come here and church is 50 kilometers away, and you miss that, right? Like, it affects your life and your spiritual life and everything. So that was a big part too.
Yeah, no doubt. What was church life like in Romania? Like you're saying that you went almost every evening to church. Like, was that kind of the culture of Christianity there, or was that, like, describe a bit of the church culture there?
So because of the communist regime, I think people didn't have too much to do. There's not like, here we go skiing in the winter.
Yeah.
You go to the beach in the summer. You go on a vacation. All these fun activities that we do, maybe they didn't get to do as much as that in the communist regime. So church was their something to look forward to go to church. Mm-hmm. So it was a good thing. You know, it keeps you out of trouble for a teenager, instead of going and doing who knows what during the week or in the evening. Or so going to church was a good thing, and it was part of my life.
Yeah.
And I think it shaped who I am today because of that.
Yeah. What was generosity like?
Generosity was, I have 2 examples that stuck with me from Romania. So my parents, I knew from the beginning that they take this seriously, and I knew that, you know, money come in and we need to set aside a portion for God, and this is how we live, and it's important. And then there was a young adult, a leader that kind of influenced me. He did not have a lot of money, but he had enough, and he was always willing to sacrifice for everybody else. He would pay for the gas to go somewhere and play volleyball, or just go like hang out, or go to a restaurant. If somebody didn't have money, he would pay for them. So I said, you know what do I want people to say about me when I die? I want them to say that you're generous. You're not just like for yourself, right? As the Bible says. So he was a good influencer for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you sent, or I read that article from Abundance Canada, which I'll get into that a bit later.
Yeah.
But like, you really have made generosity a way of life for you and your wife and your kids. So why, or what does it mean to you to have generosity as a lifestyle? Why make that important? Like, what is like your motivating factor for that?
So Proverbs 3:9, honor your Lord with your wealth and the first fruit of your produce. It's a verse that stuck with me from the beginning. So I kind of took it literally. And we came to Canada on a Thursday, I still remember. And quite a few of the families from church waited for us at the airport. And next day, Friday, they had a Bible study. We went to Bible study, and I remember introducing myself and saying, hey, my name is Beni. And if you need any helpers or you need anybody at work, I'm willing to come with you at work. So someone actually needed a helper next week, and I went to do flooring with him. So I worked for a few days, 3-4 days, and I got a paycheck, a few $100s. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna donate this money back to Romania. I'm gonna donate the money to some of the young adults that can't afford to go in camp this summer, and help them with that. That was my goal. That's how I understood that, you know, your first check, your first fruit, you should give it back to the Lord. And I did that, and it kind of stuck with me, and I made it a priority to think that the wealth and the money we have here, it's not ours. We're just a steward for God. It's a way to live. And more so, the parable of the talents, you know, God gives you 1, 2, 5, 10 talents. It's up to him. He decides how many talents you get. It's not up to you to kind of go and argue, or why do I have only this much? You know, you can always compare yourself with somebody that has more, but you could also compare it with somebody that lives in a very third world country. And I think we need to think as of, okay, we're here and we're here to administrate in God's behalf. And how do you do that? Right.
I love that. Like, you're here to administer the money that God has given you. You're essentially managers of whatever has been given to you. But it's hard for North Americans to really understand that because of our culture. And I have a quote here. It says, being generous often consists of simply extending a hand. That's hard to do if you are grasping tightly to your righteousness, your belief system, your superiority, your assumptions about others, and your definition of normal. So do you think it's harder for people who live in North America to truly understand what it means to live a generous life? Because we're so, like, we want control, like we want to hold things tightly, and we don't, like, it's like, okay, well, you can have a little bit and you can have a little bit, but I don't want to lose it, so I'm just gonna grasp it so tightly. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Or is it not necessarily a North American thing? Is it just, I don't know.
Well, I think it's a whole society, and the world is going in that direction, but more so we're leading it, North America or the Western countries in Europe too, because of the wealth we have. So I think the more you have, like I remember a wealthy person said, was asked, when are you going to stop? How much more do you want? He said, only a little bit more, right? So it never stops, and you keep wanting. But what I think is the society is trying to make it all for you and in the moment, right? Like we want the things that we don't need with the money we don't have now, and that's how we live. So as Christians, I think you're supposed to be content. Like how do you live that? How do you show that? Like, you could apply that with money, you could apply it with food. Like, I was just in Haiti, and I was thinking that how, like, we were going to eat in a guest house, so we had all the food on the table, but the people that we hang out with through the day, they couldn't eat as much as they wanted. But I'm like, how do I stop myself now that I'm here and I just eat as much as I need, not just, too much.
Right.
And it's the same with the money. Like, are you able to maybe set yourself a cap and say, I'm going to live a certain way and be accountable to someone for that, right? Accountability. So, for example, you make $100,000 a year as a family, you're going to live and spend $90,000. But how would you live if you make $500,000? How would you live if you make $5 million? Let's say you win the lottery, you invest in a business that just grows, and then how do you live, right? Are you going to keep spending? Are you going to spend more and more and more the more you make money? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm going to live and I'm going to spend $200,000, regardless I make 500 or 2 million, and I'm going to actually try to respect that and be accountable to somebody. So I've been part of some groups like that, and we helped each other out and be accountable. And my wife helps me, and she's like, you can't just go buy that car that you want. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I can't just buy that car.
Yeah, that's a really great perspective, and it's so hard for our society in a world of instant gratification. Like,
no.
Yeah, like, hey, I can now, why not? Let's just do it. Let's, but it's not long-term thinking, and it's not long-term, like, it's not creating your generosity plan. Like, no. I want to kind of talk about your trip a bit more, though, because I feel like that, how did that, like, you're like a day home. It's Tuesday now. You got home Monday in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fresh in your brain. Like, how was that? How was going to see those projects? I'll ask you this. What impacted you the most, like, seeing, like, physically?
So what impacted the most was this moment when we were just walking through a store, a mini Home Depot, let's call it, at Lemuel Ministries in Haiti. And all of a sudden, we started hearing some yelling. And I was like, what's this yelling about? Is there some fighting? What's going on in the neighborhood? And all of a sudden, they told us, we need to run. We need to get out of here. And I'm like, okay, well, if the rain comes, it's going to come a drop at the time. We're not just going to get flooded, or what's the big deal? Because we saw some clouds over us, and we saw that, they're getting mean and dark. But they said, no, it's raining hard in the mountains. We need to get out of here because the road's going to get flooded. And we went to a higher place, and we watched over these holes the size of a low-rise building, 10 feet, like from 3 feet to 10 feet, dug. A few years ago, they used to dig them by hand. Now they dug them with equipment. They got some bobcats, which at this time were broken, actually, but they were dug, and this is where they would store their water. And the water from the mountains comes through these channels that they dug by hand, and it gets to these holes, and this is their water. So actually the noises and the screaming that we heard, it was people yelling and jumping because they got water. And for us here, where we have so much water, and you turn on a tap and you have clean water, and to see those people like actually being so happy for something so small but so big for them, but for us, like, water is everywhere. And it was just like, it resets your priorities. You think, you know what, I can't keep complaining. When I go back, I need to change something. I need to be different. I need to look at things differently, and I need to change my priorities sometimes. Yeah, but that was powerful. Okay, what a cool moment to actually be there for, because for context for listeners, Lemuel has not gotten rain since November. Yeah. They are often in a state of drought. Is that fair to say? Yeah. And so for the guys to have been there, like, when essentially enough water for what, 6 months? Yeah, up to 6 months. This water could last them. And as soon as the water came, the leader said, we need to keep digging. We need to make a bigger hole that maybe will keep for a year, like up to 12 months. So although that it's so hard, like, for us, it was hard to just walk around, but they're talking about digging, and it's just getting warmer, right? Like, we were there at the end of April. Like, to start digging now, it's hard. Right. The labor and the dust and the dirt and everything. Yeah. And they never get to be inside an air conditioning room, and that's how they live. Right.
Yeah, what a cool moment for you guys to actually witness and see. Yeah, like how many times do we pray for no rain here in BC for the rain to stop? Like perspective, right? It's different. It's not.
Yeah, and Manish, he was actually saying, the leader is like, I can dig the holes, but eventually I need to put my knee down and pray and wait for God to respond. And whenever he does it, they are grateful. You know, they weren't complaining. It's like, oh, we don't have water, it's hard, or this. No, there's like, we keep praying, one day it's going to come. And it happened that, we were there and we got to witness it and see the water just like flowing. It's just like amazing.
Yeah, TJ sent a few video clips back of just the water rushing over that dry land. It was pretty incredible. Spiritually, what was the biggest thing that impacted you?
Spiritually, actually, it was, we went to a church. It was in DR. In the last few days of our trip, we went to meet with a new partner, Hungry for Life. Jason was doing that. And we went with this lady that had 3 children. And on her heart and on her husband's heart was that they're going to go plant a church in a new village. And her husband was killed in a motorcycle accident right after they kind of got this from the Lord. But she said, I still need to do this. I'm going to take my 3 kids, go and move in a new community and do that. And I was like, wow, somebody that doesn't have anything is willing to leave even that and go expose themselves now with 3 children, a woman. And she was there. We met her. She got remarried, and herself and her husband now were like, he was the pastor of the church. And it was so cool to see that.
Wow.
That God responded, and they got to plant the church there, and now she's married. And
yeah, what a neat way of demonstrating generosity, again, without finances, right? Like that's that quote that I just read. It's hard to be generous if you're grasping tightly to your righteousness and your belief system and your superiority and whatever, all those things. But when you're not grasping that and you're just giving freely, like that's like generosity can flow in so many different types of ways, like not just money, it can be time. Time is...
Well, that's a thing that I struggle with because I like to travel. And I said, whenever the time comes, I'm just going to go travel. But then I said, you know what? It's not right. God is asking not just for my money. I can just give the money because I have money. But then what is most precious to me is like my time, right? I'm busy here. I'm busy anywhere I go. And I said, how can I connect the two together? How can I go travel, but also do something good? So then I said, you can do mission trips and you get to experience really culture and life down with those people. Because if you just travel in a resort, then you don't get to experience as much.
Right.
So right before we went to Haiti, we went to Mexico to Ensenada with my family, Diana and the kids.
Yeah.
And it was our first trip with the kids. And I remember them, like I would talk on the phone about a trip or about a mission or with somebody from Hungry for Life. And the kids would just, they're supposed to be quiet in the conversation. And they would jump in. It's like, we're coming to Daddy. And
how could you not then?
I was actually, and the person is like, oh, your kids. And I said, yeah, they're here in the conversation and they're excited to come. So I kept on telling them, you're going to come next time. And then COVID comes. So we got to go, and it was such a good experience. And at the end, I asked them, I said, where would you rather go in Mexico, to a resort? They've been to a resort a few times before, or to go here. And they said, you know what, Daddy, honestly, I like the resort better, but I think we should come here because we're doing a good thing. So it was good to see that
answer.
Yeah, it's like, I'm realistic.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like the resort better, right? You get all the food you want, and you just sit and enjoy the pool and the beach. But what about doing something actually good, right? Like, how can you blend that? And
I love that you took your kids on that trip. Yeah, I heard it was a good one.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest barrier for people to give?
I think the biggest barrier is like, who do you compare yourself with? So if you compare yourself with, your neighbor, is like, he got a car, he got a boat, he got the next house, and I want that, and that's your desire, then you're gonna have a problem. But if you compare yourself with, what the Bible says, and you look through the lens of the Bible, and you think that you're the administrator of what God gave you, then you would live different, right? Like, how can I be content with what I have, regardless of how much I have, right? Because somebody might get a talent, somebody might get 2, somebody might get 5.
Mm-hmm.
But how about you compare yourself with somebody from Haiti, right? That lives in a tin box, right? Then your whole prospect of it is going to change, right? And I think it's very encouraging if more people would come and see. Like, it's good to give money and help, but I think it's very good to go down there and see how they live, because you come transformed and you can reset your values a bit.
Yeah, we totally believe that here at Hungry for Life.
Yeah, it's all part of it.
I know it's sometimes a hard sell because people just say, yeah, that's great, that's cool, you go, I'll send you there. Like, I'll give you money and you guys can send your guys and do the work. It's like, no, come with us. Like, you won't regret it. Like, we want people to experience what you're talking about, and it's invaluable. Okay, how do you decide where to give? Like,
So the Great Commission, we're here on this earth, and we have a goal, a desire for everybody around us, to get to know the Lord. So I think, or at least for me, I try to give somewhere where there's an advancement of faith. But at the same time, I can't just feed somebody or feed them spiritually if his belly's empty. So I think in some areas it's harder. Like, first you have to do a lot of food feeding, if you want to call it that way.
Sure, yeah.
And then you can get to the spiritual aspect. In some areas you can do more spiritual work. But ultimately, that's the ultimate goal, and that's why I give. Because otherwise I could just give the money here at BC Children's and then go on a vacation instead of go to Haiti, go to Bahamas. Right.
Yeah.
But that's not the idea.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see the projects, and I want to actually talk to the people, right? Like, I actually got to talk to some of their business leaders, and they had a lot of questions, and they had a lot of questions about, some of them want to get married, and it was good. It was good to talk to them and try to influence them with, what I know or my knowledge, and tell them about that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
What about, like, is there such thing as irresponsible giving, do you think?
So, irresponsible giving, I think when you go from North America and you see how they spend the money that you give, it will never be as 100% as you expected. So that could hurt you, but I don't think I need to be responsible for how they spend the money exactly, or micromanage that, right? Because I'm a bit of a micromanager, right? Like, I want things my way, I want them perfect. But then when you go there and you see, everybody's sitting around. So I'm like, I just give you guys all this money, and then all these men are sitting around. What's up with that, right? But you don't know what they've been doing all that week. You don't know the struggles in their life. You don't know the story. So when you dig into it, then you actually find out that, his wife had a problem, or they had a child that was born with a certain issue, or whatever the case might be. I don't think you need to judge or look at it that way. I think your calling is to give, and then they're responsible for how they administrate it. Once kind of you shake hands, it's like, now it's your problem. I done my duty as a Christian or as administrator for what God gave me, and now you're entitled to that, and you're going to be responsible for how and what you do. Right? Like, we cannot micromanage that, because otherwise you're just not going to give, right? And I think you also have to give. I try to give and not to kind of brag about it, or yell like with the trumpet and say, I give here and I give there. But then at the same time, somebody told me once, is like, you need to be more open about it. You need to speak about it, because that way you can influence other people. So how do you make that balance, right, between, like, not just bragging about it, but at the same time telling other people, so you can promote that?
Yeah, well, even when I asked you to come on the podcast, you're like, I don't know, but I think maybe God says I should, or you didn't say that, but you just said God
is the kingdom.
Exactly.
I mean, I've done so many things that I'm uncomfortable with, which even now I'm a bit uncomfortable to speak in front of other people, or just you questioning me here. But
interrogation.
It's worth it for the kingdom, right? It's
100%.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, agreed. What's one piece of, like, practical advice that you would give younger people about how to incorporate giving?
Yeah, so I'll go back to my early age, and I would think of a lot of the families the community that I kind of surround myself with, the Romanian community. It's people had a hard life in Romania. But then they come here to North America and they say, you know what, if I didn't have enough for me, if I didn't have money to just buy an ice cream whenever I wanted, I'm going to make sure that my children do. And they give everything to their children, like, and they spoil them. And then you see the outcome out of that, and it's like, this is not right.
Yeah, millennials.
This is not...
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's just like, teach the next generation how to fish. Don't just give them fish, right? And the same, we're trying to do the same thing even in when we go in a third world country. We try to get them to get to a sustainable process. I just did a mackerel at Lemuel, and we're trying to do it in such a way that the store is going to produce money for that community. So it's going to give a discount price for everybody in the community, but at the same time it's going to produce work for them. Cool. So how can you teach that and kind of engrave it? And like, I try to do the same with my children. Like, they ask me, it's like, oh, Daddy, are we just going to get the company? Are we going to get money and inheritance? Well, I'm like, no, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to work hard for it. This is just not coming to you.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, what people should do for their new generation.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Kids are persuasive, I tell you.
Yeah. Did it answer your question, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Okay, so you kind of got me onto this a rabbit trail of looking through the Abundance website, and this is not sponsored by Abundance Canada, but I thought it was a very cool ministry, and I want to talk about that because it's a really good way a good example of how people can plan for generosity. So am I getting this right? Like, they essentially help you create a generosity plan, and I'm not saying you have to go through any organization to do this, but it's something that you with your family can think about, like, how are we going to plan for our generosity and be thoughtful about this, and like, how do you guys do that? Do you go through Abundance, right?
Yeah. So Abundance is I heard about them actually when I was doing my wills. Yeah. When I was doing my will. Yeah. With for my children after Caleb was born, and the lawyer was telling us about, hey, maybe you should consider this because it looks like you're struggling. You donate all these places. You don't know where the money goes. Like, if you want to have everything in one place, and then they donate it, whatever you save. So you have a fund there, and you keep putting money in that fund. They can invest that fund for you if you leave the money in there for a longer period of time, or they can just give you a little bit of interest if you just leave it for a month or two. And you just tell them, donate there monthly, donate there a lump sum, and they administrate all that for you. They give a statement every month, and at the end of the year, you get one receipt for your donations. So it's very, very good, right? Like, you don't want to just hunt receipts down in February, March from all this nonprofits.
It sounds appealing to a lot of people, I think, but
yeah, there's a small fee. Depends on how much you donate. You donate 10,000 or 100 or a few $100,000, so it's a percentile, and it gets lower the more you give. But they're a good bunch there.
Yeah, and I think organizations like that are amazing at helping people figure out their plan to be generous. And the point of this was not to just go to Abundance Canada, because it's, again, not sponsored. But the point was there are resources out there to help people hone in on a plan. And I think that's really, really neat, and maybe unthought of for a lot of people, because we're kind of the same way. My husband's always texting me at the end of the year, where's this receipt? Where's that receipt? I'm like, I don't know, in my inbox somewhere. It's like, but it's good to be thoughtful about that. And I don't know. This is kind of the last point I had, but I want to end with one of my favorite verses, which is Matthew 25, verse 34 to 40. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry, feed you, or thirsty, and give you a drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? Oh, it cut off. The verse cut off. The punchline. but it said, when you did this for the least in me,
you did it for me.
You did it for the least of these. You did it for me. And I think that is something to kind of hang our hats on as far as living a generous life. Keep your eyes open, and you, Beni, you do a fantastic job at that. That's why we invited you to come talk about that. Any other final thoughts on that?
No, I think I kind of went through everything.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for making the trek all the way to Chilliwack.
Yeah. Always like to come here.
Does it seem like a long ways to drive?
No. We actually like Chilliwack, and we like this area. It's a bit warmer. We actually live closer to Vancouver, and the farther you come, the warmer it gets in the summertime.
Oh, yeah.
So my wife is like, 2 degrees makes a big difference for my garden.
Yeah.
So you never know. Yeah.
Come on out. There's some great real estate happening over here.
Yeah.
Anyways, just wanted to say thank you for coming. Thank you for your investment in Hungry for Life, sitting on the board and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you on the next trip.
For sure. Thank you for everything you do too. And thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for listening to What in the World, where we seek to educate and inspire. Here at Hungry for Life, we are passionate about your group having a global impact in eradicating needless suffering. For more information, head over to our website at hungryforlife.org. And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you may listen to podcasts. Tune in every other week for another conversation about what is happening at Hungry for Life.